Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Good morning. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I ask right now that you prepare to take your seats, please. Good morning. We will start momentarily. I ask that you prepare to take your seats, please. Good morning, everyone. Good morning, everyone. Good morning. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm asking you to now prepare to take your seats, please. Good morning, everyone. We will be starting momentarily. You can continue the chatter. I'm just asking that you chat closer to your seat. All right, good morning one more time. Good morning, good morning. Good morning. If I can have you all come closer to your seats or take your seats. We'll be starting in just a moment. Bartley? Yeah, okay. So ladies and gentlemen, the right side of the room. Thank you. You guys look beautiful. Now we got the corral, our left side of the our left side of the room. Ladies and gentlemen, if I can get you to please get closer to taking your seats. Good morning, beautiful people. Good morning. Good morning. Thank you so very much. My name is Trudy Grant. I'm the manager of Religious Affairs and External Relations for the National Action Network. It's my privilege to welcome you. If you just give us maybe about three more minutes, we shall get started. But thank you so very much for being here in this beautiful, beautiful space with these beautiful, beautiful people. Can you just look at your neighbor and tell them you are a VIP? Amen. Amen. As you all can see, I have my phone here waiting on my cue. All right, ladies and gentlemen, this is the real 2-minute warning. Good morning, good morning. Good morning, everyone. Ladies and gentlemen, good morning. This is the real 2-minute warning. If I can get you all to go ahead and move to your seats. Ladies and gentlemen, can I get you to take your seats now, please? Thank you, thank you, thank you. Thank you all. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning, everyone. Good morning. Can you please take your seats, ladies and gentlemen? Thank you kindly. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. We are ready to get started. If I can get you to take your seats. Good morning. Thank you kindly. Good morning. If I can get you all to take your seats, please. Okay, good morning, everyone. I got my cue. We can go now. Good morning, beautiful people. I am Trudy Grant. I'm the manager of Religious Affairs and External Relations for the National Action Network. Again, it is my privilege to welcome you all to our MLK breakfast. I'm here to add some Southern syrup to your morning. Of course, I'm from Charleston, South Carolina, where hospitality is our, can I get a whoop whoop for Charleston? Thank you so much. I know it's in South Carolina, don't hold that against me. But I'm here to welcome you all. So I would like to welcome up, as we start this beautiful program, our national board member and Northeast Regional Director, the Reverend Steffi Bartley. Can you all give him a hand as he comes to open us up in prayer?
Put your hands together for Trudy, you all. She is wonderful. Will you bow your heads in a moment of prayer? Gracious God, the Creator, the Sustainer of all things, it is in you we live, we move, and we have our being. We thank you for travel today. We thank you for even waking us up, that we were able to get here today. And we know on this Martin Luther King birthday celebration that this is the day that you've made, and we're going to rejoice. Thank you for all the honorees and our leader and founder, Reverend Sharpton, every board member, every person that makes this happen for us. We thank you. Bless our food. Do it like only you can do. And that is, you be glorified and our enemy be horrified. In Jesus' name, amen. I mean, you have to clap your hands like the devil is in the middle. As we're going to ask now, that Sean comes, our worship leader, is going to come and lead us in our song for this morning. Sean Beverly, he is the praise and worship leader, Uplift Church in Maryland. Let's give him a hand as he comes.
Lift every voice and sing till earth and heaven ring, ring with the harmonies of liberty. Let our rejoicing rise high as the listening skies. Let it resound loud as the rolling sea. Sing a song full of the faith that the dark past has taught us. Sing a song full of the hope that the present has brought us. Facing the rising sun of our new day began, let us march on till victory is won. Stony the road we trod, bitter the chastening rod, felt in the days when hope unborn had died, yet with the steady beat have not our weary feet come to the place for which our Father sighed. We have come over a way that with tears has been watered. We have come treading our paths through the blood of the slaughtered. Out of the gloomy past, till now we stand at last, where the white gleam of our bright star is cast. God of our weary years, God of our silent tears, Thou who hast brought us thus far on the way, Thou who hast by Thy might led us into the light, keep us forever in the path we pray. Lest our feet stray from the places, our God, where we met Thee, lest our hearts, drunk with the wine of the world, we forget shadowed beneath thy hand. May we forever stand true to our God, true to our native land.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. You may be seated at this time. Thank you. We ask that you put your eyes on the screen as you view what Nan has been up to for these years.
The year was 1991. In the midst of racial incidents and inequality in New York City and around the nation, Reverend Al Sharpton founded a new civil rights organization, the National Action Network. Rooted in the spirit and tradition of the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., Nan led the way in pushing for police accountability, voting rights, the preservation of affirmative action and DEI, reproductive rights, protections for marginalized groups, corporate responsibility, and so much more. For over 30 years, Nan and Reverend Sharpton have been the voice of the voiceless, reshaped policy, and helped push us all towards greater inclusivity, equality, and justice. 2024 was yet another pivotal year. Kicking things off, Nan organized weekly protests in front of the offices of hedge fund billionaire Bill Ackman, who was behind the ugly campaign to oust former Harvard president Claudine Gay. Ackman also relentlessly attacked diversity, equity, and inclusion programs, which are now under threat in academia, corporate America, government, and pretty much everywhere. For over 8 months, Nan and supporters continue to gather every Thursday and chant in unison, when DEI is under attack, what do? Stand up, fight back. Honoring what would have been Dr. King's 95th birthday, Nan held multiple events in several cities on King Day. In Washington, D.C., Reverend Sharpton, Martin Luther King III, and Andrea Waters King called for the preservation of hard-fought civil rights, and Vice President Kamala Harris delivered a virtual address at the annual King Day Awards breakfast, which honored individuals like Felicia Rashad, Taraji P. Henson, Governor Wes Moore, and others. Meanwhile, at the House of Justice in Harlem, Senator Chuck Schumer, New York Attorney General Letitia James, and others addressed the annual King Day Public Policy Forum with Reverend Sharpton. President Biden also joined Reverend Sharpton on his nationally syndicated radio show, Keeping It Real. The show has been on air for over 18 years now. Reverend Sharpton and Nan kicked off Black History Month at the House of Justice in Harlem with Governor Kathy Hochul, who laid out her administration's policy agenda for Black communities. Reverend Sharpton continued his work on the world stage with a visit to the UK for several speaking engagements. From a presentation and talkback at Homerton College with Lord Simon Woolley to the 2024 National Church Leaders Forum, to remarks at Cambridge Union and a presentation at Oxford Union, he tackled rising racism both here and across the pond. Reverend Sharpton also sat down for an interview with Sky News and penned an op-ed for The Guardian. Meanwhile, Esquire magazine profiled Reverend Sharpton in a piece aptly titled The Redemption of Al Sharpton. The 12-page feature captured Nan's fearless leader for several months as he led rallies, marched, delivered eulogies, and even traveled to South Carolina to trace his roots with daughters Dominique and Ashley Sharpton. ABC Signature later announced that it will develop a limited series based off of the article starring acclaimed actor Anthony Anderson. Reverend Sharpton was then in Selma, Alabama to commemorate the 59th anniversary of Bloody Sunday. Vice President Kamala Harris spoke at the foot of the Edmund Pettus Bridge and walked alongside Reverend Sharpton as they and hundreds of others marched over the bridge. Reverend Sharpton pushed a wheelchair carrying one of the original foot soldiers from Bloody Sunday. He also broadcast his MSNBC show, Politics Nation, live from Selma. In April, NAN held its annual national convention at the Sheraton Times Square Hotel. This year's theme, celebrating 33 years of fighting for justice. President Biden addressed the convention live from the White House. Vice President Harris delivered a powerful videotape message, and over 9 cabinet officials, secretaries, and administrators spoke at the convention in person. The annual Keepers of the Dream Awards dinner honored the legendary Whoopi Goldberg, Michelle Gadsden Williams, Dr. Philip Ozua, and others. The Women's Empowerment Luncheon celebrated Stacey Abrams, MSNBC's Mika Brzezinski, Alexis McGill Johnson, and featured a surprise appearance by Alicia Keys herself. There were plenary sessions and fireside chats, a minister's luncheon, and panels with victims of police brutality, children of the movement, and so much more. NAN even held its weekly DEI action rally, marching from the Sheraton straight to Bill Ackman's office. It was the largest demonstration yet. New Orleans for the 30th annual Essence Festival, the party with a purpose. This year's theme, We Love Us. Reverend Sharpton met with Ed Lewis, who co-founded Essence back in 1969, as well as several other prominent leaders. He was featured at the Global Black Economic Forum stage for a panel titled Connecting Changes Everything. NAN also teamed up with AT&T for the 30th anniversary Essence Fest private dinner. He attended a high-powered discussion featuring Vice President Kamala Harris. NAN suffered a tremendous loss this summer with the passing of our dear brother and social justice warrior, Michael A. Hardy, Esquire. Attorney Hardy not only served as Executive Vice President and General Counsel at NAN, but he was a friend, a family member, a mentor to so many, and a true movement builder. He stood alongside Reverend Sharpton through the decades and in the trenches in the arduous fight for equality and justice. NAN held a memorial service in his honor at 1 Corinthians Baptist Church in Harlem, where New York Attorney General Letitia James and others reflected on his indelible impact. Reverend Sharpton delivered a moving tribute to his friend and dear brother. Following the horrendous police killing of Sonia Massey, Reverend Sharpton and NAN led rallies in partnership with local activists in Illinois calling for justice. Reverend Sharpton said it was among one of the worst police killings he had ever seen on video. He, Attorney Benjamin Crump, and others held a powerful press conference prior to one of the rallies. At the end of August, Reverend Sharpton was in Chicago for the Democratic National Convention, which culminated in the historic nomination of Kamala Harris for President of the United States. On stage with members of the Exonerated Five, Reverend Sharpton gave a rousing speech from the main stage on the final night of the convention. He also pushed Reverend Jesse Jackson's wheelchair onto the stage alongside 2 of Jackson's sons for a tribute on the first night. The fight is far from over, so let's continue the work. Or in other words, no justice, no peace.
Can we clap our hands for our leader? It is my honor now to introduce once again the #1 civil rights leader, the #1 fighter for all of us. I would like to introduce our founding president, Reverend Al Sharpton. Will you give him a hand? Can you stand to your feet?
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much, Reverend Bartley, to all that have gathered. Let me recognize first the Vice Chairman of our National Board, Attorney Jennifer Jones Austin. Will you stand? Tanya Lombard, who is the queen of our Howard Teach, who's a member of our board. Where's Howard? Let me say, as we go through the breakfast this morning, and as we will hear from Martin and others, that we are meeting at a very precarious time, but also a time of great promise. And there will be no one way to handle this, and there'll be no one strategy. For the last many years, since the advent of the Obama administration, 8 legacy organizations have worked together, and all of us have played our lanes. And now it is going to be more important than ever that we all work in a unified way to deal with the trauma that we face in this country. We're not a partisan organization, and none of us are, but we are committed to certain principles that Dr. King and others brought about. Let us not forget, in the 60s, the height of Dr. King's movement, there was also the height of Roy Wilkins and NAACP, and the height of Whitney Young and the National Urban League, and Dorothy Height and James Farman Core. We never had all one way. It was Malcolm X at the same time. So we cannot afford to be divided when we see those that want to end DEI, those that want to roll back voting rights, those that want to take monies from the entitlement of citizens that have reached a certain age, those that want to roll back Medicare, Medicaid. So we've got to be as united as they are, whether they call themselves the Tea Party or the Birthers or the MAGAs or just plain crazy. They get together, and we must be together to bring this country back together on the right track. One of the things that have done that is I want to acknowledge many people, but I definitely want to acknowledge our partners in the struggle who are leaders, number one in their own lane. The president of the National Urban League is with us, Mark Morial. The convener, Mr. Morial. Siobhan Arlene. Where's Siobhan? Stand up. National Council of Negro Women. Sits in Dorothy Height's seat. Damon Hewitt, who is the head of the Lawyers Committee. Stand up. The fighter, Melanie Campbell. Oh, okay, Mel's over there from Black Women's Roundtable. And last but not least, he always talks about he's the youngest of the crowd, but the strongest of the crowd. President of the NAACP, Derek Johnson. Let me also thank the members of Congress that have joined us this morning. First, the new chair of the Congressional Black Caucus. I've known her, we all come out of Brooklyn. We always thought she was the chair in Brooklyn. Yvette Clark. Congressman from Houston, Texas, Congressman Al Green. My friend and sister, we've been in the trenches together, both in her hometown and in Washington, Congresswoman Joyce Beatty. From Chi-Town, the Congresswoman that has done an excellent job. Give a hand to Congresswoman Robin Kelly. And of course, Congressman Lawler was here. He stepped out. People will be in and out. And let me ask everybody, I know you're eating, but if you would look to the person to your right, and just nod at them and say, Reverend Sharpton acknowledges you, you're a special guest. So if I missed everybody, you are covered. As we get into our awards, and I want to say on Monday, many of you in Nan know we're meeting Monday, 10 o'clock at McPherson Square, and going to march from there to Metropolitan AME Church, where we will have our rally on King Holiday. And our rally, let me be clear, is not a rally to be like the insurrectionists of January 6th. We are not rallying to protest an inauguration. We're rallying to affirm the dream of Dr. King on Dr. King's federal holiday. It is a march of affirmation. We respect the process, even if we don't like the results. But we're not going to let them kill the dream. And we're not going to let them bring us backwards. So at the rally, we'll be announcing an economic plan and a coming together of how we're going to deal with maintaining DEI. They may have the votes in the House. They may have the votes in the Senate. But we control our dollars. And we're going to outline how those major corporations that want to end DEI, then we want to end them having a diverse consumer base. If you don't want us in the C-suite, then you don't want us in the supermarket. You don't want us on your boards, then you don't want us getting online and hitting you. Dr. King became nationally known leading the Montgomery bus boycott, and we're going to deal with the anti-DEI forces with the strategy of withdrawing our dollars. We're going to call names and mobilize. And the 8 organizations are coming together to deal with the strategies of how we do that. But I want those corporations to know that there will be a cost for you crossing your consumers, and that nobody in Washington can make us buy where we're not respected. We every year honor people that we feel have done some exemplary work in the field that Dr. King labored and gave his life. And we are honored that we have those that will come and help me to give the awards. I think the bearer of the King family legacy, his oldest son, Martin Luther King III, and the Queen of the movement. I don't know anyone that has exemplified and internalized the spirit of Coretta Scott King, who I got to know well because of Martin, than Andrea Waters King. Give them both a hand. Our first award I want to bring is a young man that I've known for many years. He came as a lawyer to National Action Network, joined the organization, and he said to us early, Martin, he said to me, he said, I'm a lawyer, I'm very studious, I'm a civil rights attorney, and I support the goals of National Action Network, but let me be clear, Reverend, I'm not going to jail with you, I'll just keep you out of jail. So we understood early each other's role, and he has lived up to that. He went on to run for the Assembly, then on to run for Congress, and he has made us proud because he's never flinched and never backed up on situations that needed his growing gravitas. And he is now on the precipice of being the first black to be the Speaker of the House of Representatives in the United States. He's earned the respect of Republicans and Democrats. And it is with great pleasure that we give the award this year to the Congressman from Brooklyn and who is representing as the minority leader of the House of Representatives, Congressman Hakeem Jeffries.
Well, thank you, Reverend Sharpton, for those kind and generous words of introduction and for your incredible leadership. We're so thankful for Reverend Sharpton. We know that for decades, Reverend Sharpton has been laboring in the vineyards of our community. He's a civil rights champion, a defender of democracy, a voice for the voiceless, and a powerful, profound, principled, purposeful preacher who, in the spirit of Dr. King, always fights for the people. Thank you, Reverend Sharpton, for your incredible leadership. To all of the distinguished civil rights leaders who are here, certainly to Martin Luther King III, Mrs. King and the King family, to my colleagues in government who were mentioned, Al Green and Joyce Beatty and Yvette Clarke and Robin Kelly, tremendous fighters for justice amongst the Congressional Black Caucus, to the NAN family. It's just a high honor and a distinct privilege to receive this award at this moment in time, and certainly to be recognized along with these incredible honorees that I also want to acknowledge. Assistant Attorney General Clark, Senator Alsop Brooks, who I know is on her way, my sister, Representative Jasmine Crockett, Secretary Treasurer Bunn, and of course, Reverend Melvin. Congratulations to each and every one of you. We're here to honor the life and legacy of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., a giant who bent the arc of the moral universe toward justice. Yet we know there are people in this country who want to turn back the clock. Far-right extremists who want to erase Dr. King, erase the civil rights movement, erase our struggle, erase our journey, erase our history. But Black history is American history, and we will never let them erase it. And we're thankful that Dr. King was a big part of that history. Reverend Sharpton, who's been on the front lines of so many fights, mentioned those who throughout this country, many in this town, who are attacking diversity, equity, and inclusion. I think they're using these attacks as a shield to hide their own mediocrity and incompetence. Diversity, equity, and inclusion are not foreign values. These are American values. The creed of this country, the motto, E pluribus unum, out of many, one. That's diversity. The 14th Amendment of the United States Constitution, and perhaps its most important clause, promises equal protection under the law. That's equity. And we pledge allegiance to the flag. The Congress starts every session by pledging, and we end by talking about one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. That's inclusion. Diversity, equity, and inclusion are American values, and we will not back away from them. And so thankful for the fight that Reverend Sharpton is going to lead. And so let me end by just making one final observation. We are prepared and must be prepared to defend our progress against all enemies, foreign and domestic, and to do it not as Democrats or Republicans, but as Americans, forcefully, responsibly, equitably, emphatically, democratically, openly, meticulously, until freedom rings in the United States of America. Together, let's crush racism. Together, let's crush anti-Semitism. Together, let's crush sexism. Together, let's crush xenophobia. Together, let's crush Islamophobia. Together, let's crush homophobia. Together, let's crush anti-Asian hate. Together, in the spirit of Dr. King, let's crush bigotry whenever and wherever it's found in the United States of America. That's what Dr. King would want us to do at this moment. And so I close by reminding us that Dr. King charged us to press on and keep pressing. If you can't fly, run. If you can't run, walk. If you can't walk, crawl, but press on. Now, when Dr. King gave us that charge, he was in the midst of leading the Montgomery bus boycott. He had been unjustly indicted, arrested, prosecuted, and found guilty as a result of his leadership of that righteous protest. In the face of great challenges, Dr. King pressed on. And so these are challenging times. We're about to hit some major turbulence in our journey for justice, but that's okay. In the spirit of Dr. King, everyone in this room and beyond has got to press on. Press on for our children, press on for our seniors, press on for our unions, press on for our dreamers, press on for our veterans, press on for working families, press on for middle-class Americans, press on for the poor, press on for the sick, press on for the afflicted, press on for the least, press on for the lost, press on for the left behind, press on for civil rights, press on for voting rights, press on for social justice, press on for racial justice, press on for economic justice, press on for reproductive freedom, press on for our democracy, press on.
Give him a hand. Reverend Hakeem Jeffries. He closed like a Baptist preacher. He said 3 times, and as I close, that's what we do, you know. Because some of them have to go back and forward to the Hill, before I present the next award, I want us to hear remarks from the new chair of the Congressional Black Caucus, our Congresswoman. Give a hand to Yvette Clark.
To Reverend Sharpton, Leader Jeffries, Congressman Al Green, Chairwoman Emeritus Joyce Beatty, Congresswoman Robin Kelly. A pleasant good morning to each and every one. I am Congresswoman Yvette D. Clark, Chairwoman of the Congressional Black Caucus. It is a distinct honor and privilege to be with you all this morning for the annual Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Day Breakfast. I want to thank my dear friend, the Reverend Al Sharpton, the National Action Network, for their ongoing fight for justice, equity, and civil rights in our communities, as well as Martin Luther King III, Andrea, Waters King, and the entire King family for bringing us together to celebrate Dr. King's legacy and honor those who have committed to keeping his dream and mission alive. I'd also like to take a quick moment to recognize the honorees this morning. The Honorable Hakeem Jeffries, the bad leader, the bad brother from Brooklyn. The Honorable Kristen Clark, who has done some extraordinary work on our behalf. The Honorable Angela Also Brooks. Yes. The Honorable Jasmine Crockett. Mr. Eric Bunn Sr. and the Reverend Terrence Melvin. Let me just say how grateful we are for their tireless leadership and presence this morning. I cannot think of a group of individuals who better exemplify the leadership that we need at this crucial moment in time, and whose talent, whose acumen has raised the bar for Black leadership across this nation. As we come together to celebrate the life and legacy of Dr. King, I am reminded of the ways his work has continued to inspire people here in the United States and around the world, with the unyielding belief that women and men everywhere, regardless of color or creed, are equal. Dr. King used the power of words, the example of nonviolent resistance, to bring us closer to racial and economic justice. Dr. King was a man of courage, principles, and faith, and we are forever in his debt. We are his living legacy. Still, today, his example inspires us all toward our highest ideals as Americans. And it is in that spirit that I remain optimistic that our best days are still ahead of us. I'm also very clear-eyed about the challenges that lie ahead and the work that we must do to ensure the future of our great democracy is well in hand. Next week, Donald Trump will take the oath of office with a Republican-led House and Senate and a conservative majority on the Supreme Court. And while the headwinds against us are strong, we are by no means powerless to fight back. Our strength and our unity are our greatest assets. And because of the work of Leader Jeffries and our new and returning members, House Republicans are in the slimmest majority in nearly a century. The CBC begins the 119th Congress with 62 members, the largest membership in our nation's history. 58 members in the House and 4 senators, 2 of whom are new Black women. We will leverage our power to bring Republicans to the table and push back against the MAGA extremism and the Project 2025 agenda. As we enter this next chapter, the CBC will stand firm against any effort to roll back our rights or strip away our fundamental freedoms and our human dignity. We will stand firm against the efforts to demonize diversity and cut off access to economic opportunity in our communities. We will, of course, stand firm against efforts to suppress the power of our vote or deny Black voters fair and equal representation at the ballot box. And we will stand firm against any efforts to make our beloved communities less safe and less prosperous. We will continue to build on the work that Dr. King set out to achieve, because allowing you know who to take us backward is not an option. We will move forward. We will be more determined than ever to win on behalf of the beloved community that we are privileged to serve each and every day. I want to once again thank Reverend Sharpton and the National Action Network, as well as the King family. The CBC is honored to have your continued partnership and support in this battle. Together, we will chart a path forward. We will chart a path forward that ensures our communities have more access to economic opportunities, a path that protects our sacred right to vote, a path that provides access to health care and affordable housing, a path that keeps our communities safe from gun violence and police misconduct. Together, we will keep Dr. King's dream of peace and equality for all alive. Let's go. Let's go. This is our time, and we know the assignment. God bless you.
Give a hand to the chair of the Congressional Black Caucus. Let me also, while we're talking about the Congressional Black Caucus, one who's been a real instrumental help to our organization, former member of the caucus, former Congressman Kendrick Meeks. Stand up, Kendrick. Glad to have you with us. He's been serving beyond the call of duty. And for you that think I do not get along with Republicans, I get along with real Republicans. Michael Steele is with us this morning. Stand up. And I want you to know Michael Steele and I always got along before there was this rebellion in the Republican Party. And I'll leave that alone. But you can watch him on the weekends. He can tell you about that in the morning. And then get me in the evening, I can do the amen to his morning show. But and we have many of our black Republicans. We are not their enemies. We just have different lanes going the same way, trying to do it differently. And I think that I want them to know they're welcomed. Their new leader, they should not feel he's welcome, but they're welcome. No, he's welcome too, but as long as we're doing all the talking. Before I present our next awards, and I know some of the members of Congress are coming in and out because of votes, I think we'd be remiss if we did not hear from the bearers of the baton of keeping the King movement going. We have operated like brothers and sisters. Martin III is the one that got me closer with his mother, who really, in many ways, helped to guide me to being taken seriously, more seriously, what we were doing. And he and I, for the last quarter of a century, in 2000, we led a march here against racial profiling. We have gone to jail together in St. Louis. And for the last quarter of a century, we've worked hand in glove. But nothing has glued us more than Andrea Waters King, who has taken the spirit of Coretta, and they've raised the giant of a daughter. And Andrea is the one that gets us both on Zoom calls and zooms us back in line. And I would like both of them to give remarks at this time. Martin Luther King III, Andrea Waters King.
Good morning, beautiful people. And I mean that literally, because wherever love and justice and peace and equity are being celebrated, beauty is also here. To Reverend Al Sharpton and the entire NAN family, we say thank you. This is something that's on our calendar every year because it's important for us to be with you all and the people that are in the trenches every single day, continuing to carry on the legacy of Martin Luther King Jr. and Coretta Scott King. And for those who may think that our relationship is just transactional, when my mother died 5 years ago, Reverend Sharpton preached her eulogy. So he certainly is an important part and member of our family. This morning, we were talking to our daughter, Yolanda Renee, who would have loved to be here and be here with Uncle Al and with all of you, but alas, a high-level Spanish exam called her name. And so she had to stay there for school. But she wanted to know what was going on in Washington. And if any of you know Yolanda Renee, it wasn't easy, it wasn't just, okay, it's nice and let's move on. She wanted to know every single, we had to, go down blow by blow with her. And so I started talking about the fact that here in Washington, the flags are still at half-staff for President Carter. We talked about the fact that there are some people on our plane here that were giddy with excitement. We talked about the young lady at a talk that we had last night at the Martin Luther King Library and how she came up after the talk with tears in her eyes because she was frightened of what tomorrow was going to hold. And as I was describing everything to Yolanda, and she was literally grilling me, what came to my mind was that Charles Dickens passage. It was the best of times, it was the worst of times. Wow. It was the age of wisdom, it was the age of foolishness. It was the epoch of belief. It was the epoch of incredulity. It was the season of light. It was the season of darkness. It was the spring of hope. And it was the winter of despair. Despair is an interesting word. And I couldn't then help but reflect on Gandhi, and one of my favorite quotes by Gandhi, and I've been reciting it over and over and over as we have been in the midst of many press interviews over the last few days. And when Gandhi was pressed, he said that when I despair, I remember that all through history, the way of truth and love have always won. There have been tyrants and murderers and rapists. I added that. And for a time, they can seem invincible. But in the end, they always fail. Not sometimes. And he ended the quote by saying, think about it, always. That was true when he uttered those words almost 100 years ago, and that is true in 2025, and that will be true in 2029. Today, though, we are celebrating on the actual birthday of Martin Luther King Jr. And Martin Luther King Jr. left an indelible mark on all of us, but he wasn't able to see his son graduate from high school nor from his alma mater. He wasn't able to see us get married. And he wasn't able to pull his granddaughter close on his knee and tell her stories of how he got over. So as we were talking about him this morning and Yolanda was thinking about her grandfather, we started thinking of his last sermon that he gave at Ebenezer Baptist Church on Christmas Eve. And it's ironic because in this sermon, it was 5 years after the I Have a Dream speech and just merely a few months before his death. And in that Christmas Eve sermon, he said to all of those gathered that I still have a dream. Because you can't give up in life. If you lose hope, somehow you lose that vitality that keeps life moving. You lose that courage to be, that quality that helps you go on in spite of it all. And so today, I still have a dream. And what I hope for you all today is that you all continue to stand in your dreams. You all continue in the long march towards freedom, peace, justice, and equity. That all of us together, stand together, work together. There's a lot of talk now about unity. And, you can't stoke the flames of division and call for unity. In Dr. King's last book, Where Do We Go From Here? Chaos or community? You can't have community without unity. One of the things that we're working on in the next 5 years, we actually started 2 years ago, is Realize the Dream, where we are bringing all of us together, particularly young people, to not only pledge, but commit and fulfill 100 million hours of service by the 100th birthday of Martin Luther King Jr. And so in 2029 of his 100th birthday, we will all stand together and celebrate. And we'll have young people all around this country and hopefully around the world that have done their part in creating the world in which they want to live in. They're going to come together, stand together, work together. And we hope that each and every one of you will join us in this endeavor, 100 for 100. You can go to realizethedream.org and sign up and get more information. And as I close, so that my magnificent husband can address you all, I do want to remind us of the words of a mother to her son in one of my favorite poems. And this is something that I think all of us can continue to hold close in our hearts and our minds as, again, we do our part in that long march towards freedom, and also to remember all of those that came before us, that worked and sacrificed and gave so much and did not give up. I know, particularly as Black women, a lot of us may be tired. I saw a lot of the memes. I said, okay, our work is, we did it, our work is done, and I understand that. But we don't have the luxury of giving up or sitting down. We have to continue to stand up and continue to march. And so I'll remind you of all of those that carried on in spite of it looking impossible. All of those that carried on at the darkest moments of our history, our nation, and our world. And I can hear my mother's voice and so many others in the words. Well, son, I'll tell you, life for me ain't been no crystal stair. It's had tacks in it, and splinters, and boards torn up, and places with no carpet on the floor, bare. But all the time I've been climbing on, and reaching landings, and turning corners, and sometimes going in the dark, where there ain't been no light. So boy, don't you turn back now. Don't you sit down on the steps, 'cause you find it's kinda hard. Don't you fall now, for I'm still going, honey. I'm still climbing, and life for me ain't been no crystal stair. Thank you.
Good. I think we're still in the morning. Let me first thank God for the opportunity to be here. And since Andrea said everything, I don't need to say much, but let me say to Reverend Sharpton, National Action Network, also thank you for years of friendship and support as we think about the work that we are doing. To all of our congresspersons that are here, to our religious leaders that are here, to each and every one of you. Everyone could have chosen to be somewhere else today, but you're here. And that's significant. So I also thank you for being here today. My father would have been 96 years old today. And I think about the fact that over 50 years ago, in fact, we're in the 57th year. This year in April, it will be since he was killed. What you may not know is the title of a sermon that he intended to preach, which would have been April 13th. He was killed April 4th. The title of that sermon, he would call his secretary every week to say, here's what my sermon title is going to be. I think it's very interesting because that sermon's title 57 years ago was going to be America May Go to Hell. Now you're saying, this is a preacher saying this. He didn't have an opportunity to preach that sermon. But you need to ask the question, where are we today? Because if we don't have a course correction, very soon, America may go to hell. Now, I'm not talking about in a violent way. Dad never engaged in any violence. He stood forward with nonviolence throughout his life and would have continued to the end of time. What we are doing right now is not sustainable. Just use your common sense. We have to make a course correction. And the issue is engagement. We don't have the luxury to sit on the sidelines. So if every year we're engaged in a holiday, which is interesting because it is supposed to be a time to relax. But my mom always said the King holiday is a day on, not a day off. So when we come to programs, that's wonderful. But we need to be creating a plan for what we are going to do. Yes, sir. And it's not just giving speeches. That's great because it gives some inspiration. But it really is about doing the work. That is part of why we've launched Realize the Dream. Think about that. 100 million hours of service by 2029, which equates to $3 billion of work. The goal is for people to turn to each other and stop turning on each other. You know what? We can achieve most anything in life. It only takes a few good human beings. So as I get ready to close, I want to share one more thing because my father in 1956, during the Montgomery bus boycott, he got a call at midnight. And our family had always received threatening phone calls. Today, where we are, for him, it was back then. And in terms of threats, I mean, how do you forecast just a position and then somebody threatens your life for doing what is good, just, and right? What is wrong with us? There's something wrong with that. Just like, I'm going to deviate 1 second. How in the name of God, in the United States of America, where you have a $25 trillion economy, do you have the audacity to have homeless people? The solution is not just giving people some food. We have to do that, of course. But there's more to that. There's a saying, if you give a man a fish, you feed him for a day, but if you teach a person to fish, they're fed for a lifetime. In the United States of America, everybody ought to have a decent home. A decent home could be the circumference of where I'm standing. Everybody should have health care. Everybody should have a decent job, and everybody should have justice. So we're just not there yet. We got a lot of work to do. Let me advance this story and finish. So on this one night at midnight, he got a call, and the person said to him subsequently, Martin Luther King Jr., if you don't leave Montgomery, we're going to kill your wife and family. And he said he thought about his wife sleeping. This was midnight. He had just gotten home. He had received calls all the time. But something about this one impacted him in a shaking way. And he said that as he was pondering my older sister, my late sister, Yolanda, who was sleeping in bed and mom being asleep, he said he couldn't call on his daddy or his mama. They were 160 miles away in Atlanta. He said he had to go to his theological teaching and training. But then he got down on his knees and he started praying, and he said, Lord, I know the cause is right. I know I'm doing what I think is right, but you know, I don't know. And he said at that moment, he heard the voice of the Lord saying, Martin Luther King, stand up for justice. Stand up for righteousness. Stand up for truth. And know that I will be with you even until the end of time. So today, we got to stand up for justice. Stand up for righteousness. Stand up for truth. And know that God Almighty will be with us even to the end of time. Thank you, and God bless you all. And congratulations to all honorees.
Please remain at your seats.
Give another hand to Martin Luther King III. I had told some that I had a surprise this morning, other than that we are honoring, of course, Andrea's birthday next week. Andrea, we had President Biden sing to her 1 year. But I want at this time, at this country, to deal with the reality of where we are and how we go forward. In 1972, as Hakeem Jeffries referred to this morning, and our chair of the Congressional Black Caucus, Yvette knew, I started at 17 years old as youth director for Shirley Chisholm. And people thought Shirley Chisholm was out of place. And I remember going with her as she ran for president. In '84, I was there when Reverend Jackson ran. In '04, I ran. It's been a continual journey. And I was in Chicago thinking of Shirley when I walked on the stage to say she didn't get the nomination, but we lived to see a woman get one. And a woman come very close to breaking the ceiling, not only for blacks, but for women as well. I've watched her career from district attorney to attorney general of the state to U.S. senator to vice president. She never shamed us. She never let us down. And I want you this morning to welcome the Vice President of the United States, Kamala Harris.
Good morning. Good morning, everybody. Good morning, good morning. Good morning, everyone. Good morning. Good morning, Nan. Good morning to everyone. Please have a seat. I heard everybody was hanging out this morning. I thought I'd come by and say hi. And mostly, I just wanted to come by to thank everybody, starting with our Reverend Sharpton, for the truth tellers who are here. In the spirit of Dr. King and this day that we celebrate him, his birthday, January 15th, and every day, and the spirit with which he did what he did, Reverend Sharpton, you and the leaders of NAN lived that legacy in every way that is important. This is about soldiers who understand the importance of using our feet, praying, doing good works that are about lifting up the people with a sense of optimism and purpose. Always, Nan, Reverend Sharpton, speaking truth, even when it is difficult to speak and more difficult to hear. The leaders here understand, as I often say, that the true measure of the strength of a leader is not based on who you beat down, it is based on who you lift up. I thank you for always lifting me up, but more importantly, I thank you for lifting up whole communities of people who must be seen and heard, and who deserve all the dignity that God gave them to be able to live a life that is productive and a life where they have a quality of life where they know how important they are and how powerful they are. So I came by to say thank you. As you all know, I am a native Californian, born in Oakland, California, but I do want to speak about the California fires and the devastation that has occurred in Southern California because of these most recent wildfires. Communities like Altadena, you're talking about generations of families that have lived there. Some of the first hardworking black families who were able to buy property in California and then pass down those homes through generations. Many of those families who live in those homes and live intergenerationally within a block of each other, who have lost everything. So I want to speak about them. I know we pray for them. But also, I've been thinking about it also in the context of what I saw when I was in North Carolina, when I talked to families in Georgia after most recently Hurricane Helene. And so, Nan, as we move forward with this new year, one of the requests that I make of the leaders here is let's use the voice of Nan in a way that lifts up what these moments of tragedy and these extreme weather events are doing to the communities that you have historically worked to uplift. Because there are a couple things going on that I see as patterns. One is this, and it's about what the insurance companies are not doing to extend coverage. They are canceling coverage, making it more difficult for young homeowners who are just the first time buying their home, not even insuring them. And what that means to those families and whole communities with these predictable extreme weather events, which are increasing. Climate change is real. We have long known that some of the communities that will be most devastated by them are communities of color, hardworking communities, black folks. We know when we talk about the Gulf states, right? So that's one issue. The other issue that these extreme weather events are highlighting, but is a big issue for all of us to deal with, is the rampant amount of mis and disinformation that is transiting throughout communities. And the work that we then must do to not only recognize that it's happening, but figure out how we're going to jump into that stream of mis and disinformation in a way that we at the very least can debate it based on the facts that we know to be true in terms of what's happening on the ground, but also to rebut the sources of that mis and disinformation, because it often leads the people who NAN has historically worked for in a place of despair and in a place of helplessness and hopelessness. Again, using as the example extreme weather events, when people are being told, oh, there will be no FEMA response, oh, you are not entitled to this or that, or leading them astray with information that is misinformation about what they will be entitled to, which exceeds what it might be, and then they feel disappointed and they turn the whole system off. So I'm here to talk about these couple of things because they've just been on my mind in the last week, but for quite some time. But again, I'm going to just close my comments by saying this. This is an extraordinary group of leaders. And what Dr. King taught us, and the King families here, you know, I'm always quoting Coretta Scott King. Ours is a journey. Ours is a journey. And the fight that we are in, which is the fight to uplift the people, the fight for freedom, the fight for civil rights, the fight for dignity, the fight for human rights, must be fought and won with each generation. And what we know is that our definition of the win is a definition that takes us over a period of time, where part of how we measure the win is, are we making progress? How we measure the win is based on the knowledge that it is an enduring fight, and that we must be strong, and that whatever the outcome of any particular moment, we can never be defeated. Our spirit can never be defeated, because when that happens, we won't win. And as far as I know and am concerned, when I look at the group of leaders here, this is a group of winners. This is a group of winners. So let's stay in the fight. Let's do what we got to do. And again, I thank you, Nan, for all that you have done for me and so many people who are not in this room. Be blessed. Have a wonderful new year. Thank you.
Martin, Andre. While you are standing, we have different faiths in the room. I want Andre and Martin to get on this side, Vice President. Let's have a silent moment of prayer for those in California. Let us join hands in a silent moment of prayer for those in California. Amen. As Dr. King would say, we shall overcome. We shall overcome. We shall overcome someday. Oh, deep in my heart, I do believe we shall overcome some. Thank you. You may be seated. Thank you, Madam Vice President. Ebony, y'all took all my stuff. I don't know what I'm doing. Well, was that a good surprise? While I'm doing this, y'all see the one that's really running everything is our Senior Vice President, Ebony Riley. Give Ebony a big hand. She really put this together. Where's my vice chairman? I acknowledge her, but I haven't seen her. Where's the vice chair of the board? Why they get you in the bleachers? Come on up here. I want you up here with the vice president. I want y'all to know women really run this. They just throw me and Reverend Bartley out and act like we run things. It's Miss Bartley that run New Jersey. Don't be confused. Well, for Miss Bartley would be somewhere on the side of the turnpike trying to figure his way. Talking about great black women, as we've seen with backbone and strength, we honor today a young woman who has seized the reins of advocacy that I mentioned Shirley Chisholm, who I grew up as a teenager, but Barbara Jordan behind her and others, and have done it with dignity but with clarity. And National Action Network honored her today and honors her because of her commitment. It is easy to do things when it is popular, but it's better to do things when it's right. And when you help me in honoring from the state of Texas, the sole black freshman and youngest black lawmaker of the 87th legislative session, Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett.
Hey, y'all. Thank you so much. This is going to shingle. I'm going to be real brief, even though y'all know I'm a lawyer and I'm a child of a preacher. But I got to get to my black job before I lose it, right? Because, you know, we go through elections every 2 years. So you got to stay ready so you ain't got to get ready. So let me make sure that I don't miss anybody. I got to make sure I do this, because otherwise that's another way to lose my black job real fast. And I'm gonna skip off just a little bit really quickly, because the vice president is my everything. And I have been clear about this. The vice president ain't lose nothing. We lost. And we about to find out. So I just want to be clear about that. And happy Founders Day to all the AKAs. Jesus Christ. Yeah. Let me get that out the way as well. Okay? Yeah, exactly. Y'all know what it is over here. I kept telling everybody on the campaign trail, I was like, now, y'all know I bleed crimson and cream, but I support But I support the one wearing pink and green, okay? That was so real. But I'm so honored to be recognized alongside my fearless leader, Hakeem Jeffries, my sorors, and honored colleagues, Congresswoman Yvette Clark, as well as Senator Angela Alsobrooks, Assistant AG Kristen Clark, the President of the Coalition of Black Trade Unionists, the Reverend Terrence Melvin, at this morning's Martin Luther King Day breakfast. I have to start by thanking your founder and a true civil rights champion, the incomparable, indefatigable, inexorable, and inimitatable Reverend Al Sharpton for leading this organization, safeguarding Dr. King's legacy and helping to carry on the movement he dedicated his life to. I also want to thank the honored co-chairs of this event, Martin Luther King Jr. III and Andrea Waters King. It's not Junior the third, but that's what they put. It's just the third. Anyway, to even hear my name alongside yours is humbling. And just so y'all know, we met a few years ago. If some of you recall, when I was in the State House, we left the State House, and it was all about voting rights. And I ended up at the MLK statue. And who was there but these two amazing souls? Let me tell y'all, I had no idea that I was going anywhere near Congress. I just knew that I had to do something because there were those that came before me that made a way for me. And so here it was. Now, I was doing all these interviews with Reverend Al, y'all. And if you run the tape, if y'all go run the tape back, he was constantly calling me senator. Now, I wasn't nobody's senator, but he had elevated me. And little did I know that elevation would come, but it would come in the form of me entering the U.S. House. Nevertheless, in moments that feel so dark and uncertain for so many of us, where we feel we are moving backwards instead of forward, I find strength in the words of the late Reverend Dr. King. Press on and keep pressing. If you can't fly, run. If you can't run, walk. If you can't walk, crawl. Throughout my career as a public defender, a civil rights attorney, and an elected representative in both the Texas State House and now in the People's House here in D.C., I can admit I have felt impatience at how slow the wheels of change move in this country. But it is that impatience that has helped to fuel my fight to make the United States of America live up to its own promise of liberty and justice for all. If I tried to imagine walking alongside Dr. King, Ella Baker, Bayard Rustin, and Rosa Parks, I know they would feel that burn of impatience and righteous anger just like I do today. But the late, great Congressman John Lewis put it best. Change often takes time. It rarely happens at all at once. We've had to wait a long time for change. For every step forward we take, we have been pushed 2 steps back. 5 steps, hell, even 10 miles sometime. But Dr. King would remind us that it doesn't matter how long the road is, just as long as we keep walking. Thank you for this honor, and remember, it's up to us to continue pushing back against extremism while ensuring the voices of our most vulnerable neighbors never fall on deaf ears. And as we discuss fights and pushing, I know some of y'all saw what happened yesterday. Hey, y'all, you know, I just have to address the elephant in the room every once in a while. Y'all know somebody tried to fight me. Me pulling off my glasses is the equivalent of me pulling off my earrings, I just want y'all to know. Y'all. Or as some say, child.
I hold you.
As some would say, child, you got me messed up. Nevertheless, I just want y'all to really understand what that moment is about, because what did not go viral was the fact that I was actually sitting there trying to remind my colleagues of the legacy of Dr. King. Yeah, that's right. I was trying to introduce or reintroduce, I was trying to provide an amendment that would allow for the Civil Rights Subcommittee and oversight to be reintroduced in oversight. That's what it was about, okay? And I didn't pick on nobody. I didn't start none, okay? Instead, what I said was that tomorrow, being today, was going to be Dr. King's actual birthday. And on January 20th was going to be the swearing in of their beloved leader, as well as the day that we honor the legacy of Dr. King. And so I said, I know some of y'all think that when we say civil rights, it just means black folk. Let me clarify the definition of civil rights. And so I defined for them what civil rights look like, but I also told them the story of sitting on the plane traveling with Lucy Baines Johnson. Lucy Baines Johnson showed up to honor the life and legacy of President Carter. And as I sit here and we sit here in the legacy of Dr. King, I had to tell this story that Lucy Baines shared with me because there's only stories that certain folk can pass down. And I had the benefit of flying with her, and I had met Lucy Baines a number of times, but this time we actually had some time because we were stuck on a plane for about 3-4 hours. And so we sat next to one another because she came up to me and said, I gotta tell you, Congresswoman, my daughters love you, and it is the wildest thing for me to hear that the grandchildren of the late great, probably the last great president we had from Texas, but nevertheless, Lyndon Baines Johnson, for her to tell me the story of being an 18-year-old that was in the White House with her father at the time that he was going to be signing the Voting Rights Act into law. Now, all the civil rights leaders were there, y'all. She told me about the civil rights leader, and she told me that her father had this amazing handwriting, and this was the only time that the handwriting was bad on any bill because he was giving everybody signing pens, and so he was just doing a little bit, and then you got a pen, and he was handing them out because he really wanted all the civil rights leaders to get a signing pen. But she also told me that the very first signing pen that he handed out was to the Republican leader, or the opposition leader. I don't know if it was a Republican or not, because y'all know things was a little funny back then. But the minority leader who had stood against this legislation, who had finally come on board. And so she said, why would you give it to him first? And he said, because it was hardest for him. So that's why I gave it to him first. But more importantly, she didn't really want to go to the signing because she was 18 and it was going to be inconvenient for her. Because he decided that he was going to do the signing over in Congress. And so she said, Daddy, why do we have to go over there? And she said that he said to her, little one, you have to understand that these members have a level of courage that means that them voting for the Voting Rights Act, they knew they were not coming back. So I asked my colleagues to channel just a fraction of the courage that members in the House possessed in the 1960s and allow us to just have the subcommittee on civil rights. That is what I did, and then it turned into trans folk, and then y'all know it just went completely left. But I do want to be clear that the substance of what I was trying to do did not go viral. But I want y'all to know that every day that I walk in those halls, regardless of whatever rhetoric they put out about me, I am a very serious lawmaker. At the same time, if you try me, you will find out. I just want to be clear about that because I am truly a black woman at the same time. So I say thank you and God bless, and I do mess with the real Republicans. My homies is sitting over here, not just Michael, but Tara, who was texting me and was like, sis, are you coming this morning? Eyes here. God bless y'all.
Jasmine Crockett. And let me say, I still say senator, I speak. Let me also say, talking about great black women, let me acknowledge the preeminent branding and marketing genius in Black America. Rachel Nordlinger, stand up, from Acton. And I've acknowledged, but I'll acknowledge again our board member, Tanya Lombard. These are the women. And of course, I've already brought up our vice chair is going to help me with the next award because it's so important. I have to acknowledge, though, everybody, Martin always tells me, don't forget family. My daughter, who's really put the youth department together, put your hand up, Ashley Sharpton. We have dedicated for the 33 years of NAN fighting in the arena of criminal justice. And as we work with our 7 legacy partners, we've taken the front on many of those issues. As I heard the Congresswoman Campbell talk about legislation, there was also a Justice Department under Lyndon Johnson that acted that for decades after Mark Morial was not there for us. And in many of the situations that we felt should have been dealt with. We did not want favors. We just wanted a fair exchange and to see if the evidence could lead to giving us equal protection under the law. Under this administration, a young Black woman was given the task of doing what was right in the civil rights of this country. And I give credit to Attorney General Garland for having the backbone to put someone who had still strength and real focus. We knew her from New York State because she absolutely took care of business there. And we could not let, on the closing days of this administration, the chapter close without honoring a real shero who stood up, if it was George Floyd, if it was Ahmaud Arbery, went in the trenches and got cases done that would have never gotten done had it not been for the diligence and the insurmountable odds she faced never conquered her, and never asked us to say a word on her behalf. But we want the world to know that when history writes about the Biden and Harris era under Merrick Garland, a star in that galaxy will be the Assistant Attorney General, Kristen Clark. Let us honor her this time. Thank you.
So appreciate you. Good morning. It is so good to see everyone today, and I'm so honored to have been invited as an honoree and in such distinguished company. I want to acknowledge our members of Congress who've been here today. I want to acknowledge all of our legacy civil rights leaders and other advocates who are also gathered here today. I want to thank Dr. Martin Luther King III and his family for carrying the torch forward. And I want to thank you, Reverend Sharpton, and the National Action Network for this recognition and for having me. And allow me to just take a brief moment as I give final public remarks as Assistant Attorney General for the Civil Rights Division. Thank you. Thank you. Allow me to just acknowledge one special member of my team who's been with me from the very beginning of this journey, the department's civil rights spokesperson, Ariel Bradford. There she is. I want to express my gratitude for your decades of leadership. This is directed to the NAN community. You stand on the front lines fighting for voting rights,
fighting for economic justice, fighting for policing reform. You helped make America a better place. But I want to say a word about diversity, equity, and inclusion, which we have heard about today. The events of 2020 following George Floyd galvanized our nation and produced a swelling tide of support for DEI efforts. And as everyone here is well aware, that tide is ebbing, and it is shameful that many corporations are turning their backs on principles that truly lie at the heart of our democracy. Diversity, equity, and inclusion is about ensuring equal justice under law. I am so pleased to hear that our legacy groups have dedicated themselves to taking on this important issue in the year ahead. At the Justice Department, our civil rights efforts have been grounded in reality. We need diversity, equity, and inclusion in our country. This is about work that reflected Dr. King's beloved community. We have worked to do just that by taking on issues that we face in our schools. We have confronted racial segregation, racial harassment, and the school-to-prison pipeline. In the employment context, we have taken on ongoing racial and sex discrimination that we continue to see at the hands of employers today. We are fighting modern-day redlining and taking on banks and financial institutions that continue to deny Black families access to the American dream. With law enforcement, we have worked to take on officers and hold them accountable when they violate people's civil rights. We have held officers accountable for the deaths of George Floyd, Breonna Taylor, Tyree Nichols, and 2 young Black men brutalized by the so-called Goon Squad in Rankin County, Mississippi. Yeah. We need diversity, equity, and inclusion in our country. Some of the work I'm proudest of over the last 4 years is work that we have done to take on hate crimes, including racially motivated hate crimes. Everything from the top supermarket shooting in Buffalo that resulted in the deaths of 10 Black people, the Tree of Life massacre in Pittsburgh, the shooting at the Walmart in El Paso, Texas, that led to the deaths of 23. We need diversity, equity, and inclusion in our country. We do this work because 56 years following the tragic assassination of Dr. King, the goals of the civil rights movement remain unrealized. There is still unfinished business. We do this work because of Emmett Till, the victims of the Tulsa Race Massacre, the 4 little girls murdered in Birmingham, James Byrd, Ahmaud Arbery, and more. We need diversity, equity, and inclusion in America. As we commemorate the life of Dr. King today, I'm called to paraphrase from Scripture. We all know that he fought the good fight, that Dr. King finished the race, and that he kept the faith. Today, our charge, indeed our sacred mission, is to pick up that baton that he has handed us and continue that march and continue the fight for justice. We will continue to fight and demand that the voting rights of 1965, which turned 70 this year, be fully restored. Under my watch, the Civil Rights Division has stood with you. We have stood firm in the fight for justice. Although much of our work will be difficult to undo, many of us are feeling unsettled right now, and we're right to be. But I will say this: we have been down this road before, and we have carried forward in our mission, heads held high, just as Dr. King did not let any setback deter him. We must heed his words. We must accept finite disappointment, but never lose infinite hope. Thank you.
Give another hand. The movement that Dr. King and others led was spearheaded by their blending and bonding with the labor movement. And A. Philip Randolph, who was a major part of convening and putting the Big Six together, represents that. So it is with that in mind that we have a distinguished labor leader that we honor, who is an advocate for federal as well as DC government employees, as the National Secretary-Treasurer of the American Federation of Government Employees, the largest union representing federal workers. He's dedicated his life over 35 years to fighting for fair wages, and we're honored to honor him, Eric Bunn Sr. Give a hand. Come on, Eric. Come on, Eric Bunn Sr.
Good morning. Let's try that again. See, I'm used to a union meeting. Good morning. Good morning. All right, all right. First, I want to thank the Reverend Al Sharpton and National Action Network for selecting me as what I found today, it's a co-recipient to receive the Labor Leader Award. The National Action Network has remained steadfast in advancing the civil rights agenda, the champion criminal justice reform, educational equality, voter engagement, anti-violence initiative, and community empowerment. These are values that align closely with the work we do in labor movement. And I want to thank NAN for being a committed partner in this shared struggle. It's humbling to join the ranks of so many distinguished leaders who have received this prestigious award before me, including 4 leaders of my own union, also to be in the company of a distinguished group that was honored here today. Give them a round of applause. All right. And I'm honored to stand here today. I would like to also take a moment to acknowledge God. Without him, none of this would have been possible. My wife of 43 years, Deborah Bunn, who's been my partner and a rock throughout my journey as a labor leader. She has stood by me through challenges and triumphs. Thank you, and I love you. To my incredible sons, my sister, who are here today, thank you for your unwavering support. I'm so proud of you, and I know Mom and Grandma would also be. And I want to thank you for this opportunity because I wanted my family to experience what I've been experiencing. To have my sons here today, to be in the company of just the lineup you have today, and hear the speeches they have, it's really been, I don't even know how to explain it. So I just want to say thank you, okay? Because that means this work takes a toll on families. But mine has been with me every step of the way. I also want to recognize AFG's president, Dr. Everett Kelly, my mentor. His wife was supposed to be here, along with one of my co-workers, National Vice President Cheryl Eliano. Thank you for your guidance and encouragement. As I stated earlier, we serve an awesome God. And I say this because the path wasn't what I originally envisioned for myself. My plan was to work in computers, but God had another plan for me. My journey began with the agency. Our work accused me of wrongdoing. The union stepped in, represented me, and I won my case. Afterwards, my mother, who was a national representative for this same actual union, told me I need to give back. And you know, you do what your mother tells you, okay? At first, I wasn't interested in union work, but my mother saw something in me that I didn't see in myself. From there, I became the president of my local union, a position I held for 23 years. I worked to restore the integrity with the local, growing our membership from 315 to 12,000 members, making us one of the most powerful locals in the District of Columbia. During that time, I also served as a council president, representing another 5,000 members across the district government. As I said, God had a plan. Through him, people saw potential in me and called me to take on responsibility that I hadn't sought out. After more than 20 years in the trenches, I was asked to run for National Vice President of District 14 within AFGE. I won that election, cleaned up and revitalized the district, and turned into one of the leaders in our federation. I was also asked to serve as treasurer of our Central Labor Council in Washington, D.C. And I served in that position for 8 years, restored financial stability. And while treasurer for the Central Labor Council, I was encouraged to run for secretary-treasurer for AFGE. I won and still serve in that role today, where I work to restore the union's integrity and pull us out of the back of a brink of financial ruin. My mother, who once urged me to give back to the union that helped me, will be so proud to see her son, who gave back, now holds the second highest position in AFG today. The moral of the story is God always has a plan. Sometimes others see gifts in us before we see them ourselves. This award is not just a recognition of 1 year's of work. It represents 40 years of dedication
what we are called to do. If you need to fall back on your ancestors as a cushion in this moment, then do it. But don't let go. If you need to call out and call in, I need you to do it. But don't let go. If you need to tell your story, like I am today, of someone who has been on this earth for 70 decades. That's right. I celebrated my 70th birthday this past Saturday. So I've been on this earth for a minute, and I've fought many battles. And this I know. We can do this. We will do this because our children, David, our babies, are depending on us to be worthy of them. Reverend, thank you for all you do because you never let go of anyone's hand. Reach out and don't let go. Thank you for all you do every day for our students and for our communities and for this country. Don't let go.
I guess 70 is the next, 70 is the new 50s, huh? Come on, sister. Now we have Sean Mickens, who's the Associate Vice President of External Affairs at Comcast, where he leads the public policy team, and he is a dear friend of ours. Sean, thank you.
Well, I know I'm bringing up the rear, so I'm going to make sure that I keep this as brief as possible, but I do want to take a moment just to once again thank Reverend Al Sharpton and all of the amazing staff, volunteers, long-term friends, and partners of the National Action Network for convening us once again for this marvelous occasion and this wonderful breakfast. I know it is truly honorable that we are here to honor the legacy of Dr. Martin Luther King. This event reminds us of the ongoing work to build a more equitable and inclusive society, a cause to which Dr. King fought for. As Reverend Sharpton mentioned earlier today, this is only possible through a lot of collaboration amongst the civil rights leaders, collaboration amongst community leaders, collaboration amongst many of the corporate leaders. And at Comcast, we believe that the best way for us to do that is to continue to invest in our communities, to be connected to the internet, to learn the digital skills that are necessary that brings our communities closer together. The same internet that allows us to protest when it is time to protest, the same internet that allows us to reach out to those across the world to bring them into our causes. Many of the ways in which we do this is by consistently fighting to close the digital divide through initiatives like our Internet Essentials program, through programs like our Lift Zones, which work in local communities to make sure that everyone from children to seniors have access to the technology and the skills to bring out the unlimited possibilities that will bring us our economic justice, our social justice, and our civil rights in the 21st century. I'm proud of the work that we've been able to do. I know there's still so much more work to do. I know that there's a call for all of us within the corporate space to consistently stand with our partners. And as we have heard from many of the honorees today, we must press on. I'm proud to say that today we will continue to press on at Comcast NBC Universal, and that I myself, as an individual who is only in my position because of the work that Reverend Sharpton, Dr. King, many of my friends, mentors, and former bosses that are in this room has allowed me to do. We will continue to press towards the goal. Happy Martin Luther King Day, y'all. Keep hope alive.
And let me also acknowledge Cecil Cummings of CWA is in the house. All of the support and all of our working together is what makes it happen. Thank you all for being here, and you that can join us on Monday on the federal holiday as we have our swearing in. We take our oath on Dr. King's dream. Thank you. God bless you.